Welcome to the Love Beyond Limits podcast, where we celebrate love, intimacy, and everything in between. I am Ameenah Asante.
And I'm Kyla Black.
And together,
we'll explore the realms of relationships, sexuality, and queer experiences.
We're here. We're live. Oh my goodness. Hello, girlfriend.
Hello, girlfriend.
I'm so excited about today's episode. We get to talk about some fun stuff. First, I thought it would be great if we start off talking about who we are. And true to form, you love this so much about me, darling. I have a bit of a surprise. I thought it would be fun if we introduce each other versus introducing ourselves. And so I will go first. Is that an okay surprise, love?
Like you said, true to form. I'm just going to go with it. We'll see.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, brief, right? We're not gonna, not the whole life story, but
Right.
not today. Okay. So, world, this is my partner, my girlfriend, Kyla Black. And she hails from the great state of New York and has been in New York really her whole life. And with the exception of undergrad, she did undergrad out of state, Penn State University. She is a licensed clinical social worker, as well as a certified sex therapist, a mom of an 8-year-old, and just an extraordinary human being. And I happen to love her so, so much. It wasn't too bad, was it?
So that was really nice. Thank you. Great. So this is Ameenah Asante. Ameenah is in Michigan, and I suppose you would say you hail from there. Yeah. Born and raised, and also out of state for college in the sunny land of Florida, or as she would say, Florida. But here in the state of New York, we say Florida. At least I do. And Ameenah is a relationship coach, a life coach, a human design specialist, and has many, many gifts in the world that she shares with all the people that she works with in her groups and programs. And Ameenah is a mother of 2 beautiful teenagers.
Beautiful. I love it. Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. So during this conversation today, as part of our introduction, thought it would be fun that we chat about our queerness and how we came to be living a life of as individuals and in this partnership, whatnot. Yeah.
Great. So, what is my journey to queerness, you ask? Great question, Ameenah. Great question. Well, I like to say that it started before I had any inkling of queerness. And I really trace it back to being my friend's therapist and sex therapist without knowing that that was even a thing, probably in high school, and just really being interested in sex and sexuality as both a topic of conversation, an academic topic, and certainly an experiential conversation, and thinking about it, talking about it, wanting to hear other people's ideas and questions and experiences and talk about my own. And I was the boy craziest girl I knew since kindergarten. I had 2 boyfriends in kindergarten. In the memoir that I will one day complete, I write about them. I don't know their last names, probably for the best, but if otherwise, I'd give them a shout out. But yeah, just never in my life would I have imagined looking at the first 18 years of my life that I would end up being a woman who loves women. And really, it wasn't until my freshman year of college that, I know this sounds crazy, but we used to drink alcohol. And I know, underage, don't try this at home, kids, not without supervision. So we had a very fruitful night of a lot of imbibing, and to that effect, my friends and I, all girls, decided we were going to be crazy and make out with each other. And everyone was straight as far as they knew and as far as I knew. But we talked about sex all the time, all the time. And in fact, I failed my chemistry final because I stayed up talking about sex instead of studying. But what do I remember now? Well, I do remember failing chemistry final. That was unfortunate, but also I remember what came from it, which was, yeah, my freshman year roommate and I just had so much fun making out with each other that we kept sneaking off from the party and kept making out. And everyone else was done. They went back to the guys they were interested in and whatever else they were up to. And my roommate and I were like, let's go out. Let's do it again. That was fun. So we would. And all night long, we just kept making out. And then we went back to our room and we pushed our little dorm beds together, our extra long twins, and just made out for hours. And that was that. And so that was the end of my freshman year of college. I was 18-ish, almost 19. And I was like, wow, that was really fun. And that felt weird, but also didn't feel weird. And then I just thought about it for the rest of my college years until my senior year of college, when after yet another disappointing experience with a guy, I was fed up and I said, no more. I am not going to date at all. Guys are so immature. This is annoying. I just want to play rugby and hang out with my friends for my senior year. Felt good about that. Did I mention I was a peer sex health educator? I feel like that's kind of an important part of the story because I got to learn more and talk to people and like learn more about sexuality overall and met lesbians. Whoa. I know you heard me say I play rugby, but we didn't have any, we only had one out lesbian during the time I played up until my last year when it changed. But yeah, so it wasn't a lot of exposure. I knew those lesbians were out there, but I didn't really know any, except for one friend. So said friend stood by me as I casted off men in my disappointment and said, well, if you ever want to hook up with a girl, I like you, so I'm available. And I was like, thank you, Bree. Forever thank you for introducing me to this world. And so, yeah, beginning of senior year of college, I said, sure, why not? For science. And oh, wait, this is out of order, but I remember a really important part too. So, junior year, people are going to really listen to this. This is interesting.
Yeah, this is interesting. Think about all the baby queers who are like, like what's the story? What's the tea? You're giving it.
This is true. Although I feel like it's so different now for baby queers. Like baby queers get to be baby queers and like our
Yeah,
journey is really different. Well,
but
was
there's
different.
still people that are not out. So for
Absolutely.
science.
For science, yes. So for science, so I was a health peer educator. So my friends and I would give workshops to students on different topics. And so again, more an ongoing talk about sex and sexuality. And around this time as well, junior year, I was given a list of careers by my mentor in my major. And on the list said a sex therapist, and it was public health, sex therapist, researcher, epidemiologist, da 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 da, lots of other things. And I was like, ooh, sex therapist. That sounds right up my alley. And I didn't really want to be a therapist because I thought that was going to be a very kind of containing, like too small experience. And I wanted to go to different continents and countries and do more kind of public health education. But I saw sex therapists and I said to my friends, I think I might need to start hooking up with girls again. Not again, period. And they said, yeah. And I said, yeah. I said, because maybe I want to be a sex therapist, but how can I be a sex therapist if I've never had sex with half of the population? That's not really the criteria, by the way, for becoming a sex therapist for all of you budding sex therapists out there. There's no criteria
Not
required
on the list.
for who you might experience sex with or how you identify in your sexuality. But for me, that was my permission giving to myself to explore women. Although I still called them girls at that time because I still thought of myself as a girl. And so, yeah, so my friend said, yeah, that makes total sense. You should definitely start hooking up with girls because that for science. And I said, for science. L'chaim. Cheers. So back to senior year, forward to senior year, and my friend with her friendly offer. I took her up on her offer. And it was the first time I'd ever had a true like sexual experience with women. And I was so surprised at how natural it felt. I didn't know what to expect. I just expected it would feel weird,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel weird. It felt like, huh, cool.
Great.
You know, and spent all of senior year continuing down that vein. A lot of science, a lot of data gathered.
Amazing. I love that. I love your story.
Thanks.
No problem. For me, mine is, there's going to be some similarities, but mine was a little bit, quite a bit different. So I definitely would say that I've known that I was queer, any myriad of classifications since I was a little girl. I remember like a sleepover and thinking a girl was pretty and, those kind of moments. And college, having um, an experience with a woman that I wish that I would have been more into because I feel like it would have gone further and maybe my path would have been a little bit different. But, an experience nonetheless. And then I graduated and I moved to Japan. And in Japan, had another experience, but it was really like slim pickings. Like it was a lot of adulting that was not connected to women. And I ended up marrying a man, and I was married for 10 years. And
And how
on the,
old were you when you got married?
I got married when I was 27. So I, you know, very strained, tumultuous relationship. And upon exiting that marriage, I decided that I was going to have a girlfriend
At 38,
at 37.
37.
Yes. And I basically met my first girlfriend, half Brazilian, half Japanese, and had my first full sexual experience with a woman. And I remember the experience feeling like my body just like had this full gasp. And it
Mm.
was almost like a baby, coming out of the womb and like having her first breath. That's what it felt like. And I've never heard that sound of like air come out of me before, but it really felt like I was coming home and I was being birthed. And although the relationship didn't last, I'm grateful to have had a pretty delicate and loving introduction into my woman loving space and being with non men, having multiple girlfriends or people in my life, partners that were non men before arriving at this relationship. So I officially came out like publicly, like the good old Facebook public coming out at 39. And so that was like, it just felt super delayed. But, as I talked to, a couple ex-boyfriends here and there pre-marriage, they reminded me that I've always really been out to them at least. Like it was always a part of my conversations. Like, by the way, like love you and also I'm attracted to women and yeah. So it's been a thing, definitely known for a long time, but just late in the enacting of it. So I think that's the fullness of my story there. Yeah. Any questions? Anything I forgot?
Nothing that stands out that I'm aware of that you forgot
Mm.
in the getting to
Hmm.
uh, part. But for our listeners, knowing what you knew early on, other than slim pickings, because people still find people, what else do you think prevented you from exploring this part of you and
Yeah.
living some part of a queer life before 37?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I'm glad you asked. For me, it absolutely was access. Like, I did not have access to any queer, lesbian, gay role models of any sort, like in our town. And East Lansing, Michigan, for all intents and purposes, it is extremely liberal and progressive and all of this stuff, but it was like super non-existent. And so, although when I look at the different people that I was drawn to in like curiosity, they all were queer of some sort. And so, yeah, I would have been a different story had I had access to, seeing role models, seeing couples, seeing, different types of love. So, yeah,
This is my cat, Whiskey. Whiskey will often make an appearance because Whiskey likes to come and go.
totally, totally. Yeah,
And
what about you?
in
Mhm.
college, was that the same for you? Also, no access or exposure or people? Because you certainly went to a big enough school that there were queer people around. At
Definitely.
least 10% of any population.
Definitely, I'm sure that they were there. However, with my college experience, I went to a historically Black college, university, Florida A&M University, and this is like the late 90s. And, in the Black community, it's still to this day, arriving, getting over the hurdle of queerness being taboo. And so, especially 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago was definitely a thing. So I can't even name one person who was in the community who wasn't like, you
Mhm.
know, a, an out, gay man, but definitely no women. I didn't see them. Yeah, definitely wasn't a thing that I
Mhm.
saw. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What about for you in like high school? Like what prevented you?
It wasn't in it didn't exist for me as far as I had known yet. I didn't know. I think up until then, I mean, I grew up in Queens, which is a diverse community, certainly ethnically and otherwise. And
Lots of Italians.
definitely a lot of Italian, a lot of everybody.
Inside family conversation. Yeah, great.
Lots of everybody's, but not necessarily a lot of people who I would notice to be or aware of being gay, lesbian, queer, anything. And my mom didn't know anyone, and my dad didn't know anyone. And I think, it wasn't until my stepmom was in the picture and she was in acting and she had some gay male friends. And so I think looking back, I mean, like, I have a cousin who's 5 years younger than me who was always, was gay from birth. And so he was the only person I knew really who's gay from an early age, but I didn't know other people and met people, I saw people, but I didn't have peers per se. And so also similar like exposure, just people weren't out yet, right? In the way that they are now. I mean, I went to a high school of 4,000 kids. No doubt there were some gay kids there. And I remember friends, saying this person's gay or or this one's a lesbian. And I was like, okay, but like didn't really hold much meaning. But I was completely obsessed with guys. It wasn't like I mean, I had friends. I never was attracted to a girl. I never thought about a girl erotically, never had fantasies, like nothing, zero.
Yeah.
I just liked sex. I wanted a lot of sex. I wanted a lot of hookups. I wanted a long list of guys that I could say I hooked up with. I wanted people to like me. It was very hetero focused until college. And then college, yeah, college just that drunk tequila night really opened the gates. and never closed them. And then I started to meet people and see people, and my interest was piqued. And it really, for me, originally felt very physical in nature. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
super curious about what it would feel like to be physically intimate with a woman and have
Mm-hmm.
sex and kiss and things like that. But it still took a little while till I found the experience of having an emotional connection and feelings. It was still
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm attracted to everybody. I want to have
Yeah.
sex with all the genders. But I did find senior year when I actually started hooking up more, semi-dating. I don't know really what it could be called, something. I found that I felt much easier in my dating self. Like I felt much less confined to the rules that I had been told explicitly or implicitly that I was supposed to follow as a girl dating a guy. You
Yeah.
don't call so soon. Don't show
Mm-hmm.
that you like them too much. You'll scare them away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait X number of days, if all of that nonsense, which I was never very good at. And I was like, I'm really
Mm-hmm.
direct. If I like someone, I like someone. If I want to hang out with them, I want to hang out with them. What is
Yeah.
this waiting nonsense? Like, I can't play this game. And I found that with girls, like that wasn't part of the mix, at
What
least
are some
my experience.
what are some other differences that you have noticed with dating women versus men?
Great question.
I'll start.
Ameenah?
Oh my gosh. I would say there's so many differences. Like it's night and day.
Wow.
I really, really feel so. Like I think the biggest difference is really what you're talking about. The kind of like the tiptoeing, not knowing, like, is this all right? Is this all right? Like, what are you thinking? Like, there is a level of openness and emotional availability that's just present. And of course, isn't across the board. Like my sample size is, a little less than 10. But
A handful of women who I would not label as emotionally available or
great. I
or
love
communicative or emotionally aware or any of those things. But yes,
that's important. That's an important distinction. I would say for me, I'm listing people that I've actually dated. And if I dated them, it's because they exhibited the qualities that I'm attracted to. So it is skewed. Um, but I think there have been less barriers. It's been super like connected and easy and like I could very much understand like my place in the relationship, like the sense of belonging and all of that. So yeah, that would be a major thing. And I think the last thing that I'll say for that is the sex. Like sex being,
a slight difference. Yeah.
oh yeah, just a little bit different. The sex being another night and day where, sex with men typically centers around male ejaculation and male pleasure versus sex with a non-man is like this explorative space that for me has always been, extended like at least an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of this wonderland of possibility. And it's felt very like even and like just exciting because you don't know what's going to happen next.
You really make
And
being queer sound like an amusement park.
it is, Kyla. You should go. Got free passes, season passes too.
Oh, for the ride. Go to Splash Mountain.
On it. All right, your turn. What are the differences for you?
Um, well, as I'm listening to your descriptions, I'm also thinking about how even though you had these early knowings and feelings, you had multiple boyfriends, right? Husband, right? And so like these longer term relationships with men, inclusive of sexual relationships, the emotional, if it was, available, etc. And so I think about for me, I had, while I was always attracted to and into guys through college, except for, when it started, but I was still pretty focused in that gender pool. I didn't have a lot of boyfriends. And so I had a lot of one-time hookups or just casual partners where I found that the connection was very based on physicality. And there were, emotional connections here and there, but I had two significant boyfriends in high school, in my senior year of high school. And then I wanted a boyfriend really badly in college. And I don't think I ever dated anyone for more than a few months at the most. And so I don't know the experience of a long-term relationship with a man. And with that, or a long-term sexual relationship or emotional. And so it was often, one of the biggest differences. This is really, really fun the way it just keeps bouncing back into my face. Speaking of sex with men, which I haven't had that much of.
Oh my God, so funny. Keep going.
Um, but one of the biggest differences for me is, in addition to the not game playing, was the emotional connection and the ease of emotional connection and conversational connection and feelings and sharing of feelings. And I don't remember, I'm 45 now, and I started social work school when I was 24. So 20 solid years of being in the clinical world. I've definitely been processing my feelings for the last 21 years. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I started before that, but I don't remember being such a big processor before that. But I must have been a talker. I like to
Mhm.
talk. I like to ask questions. I like to express myself. I like to hear other people's things. I liked real talk. I always liked real talk. I just chalked it up to, well, maybe it's just because I'm in college and these guys are just immature and they don't know what they want, da da da, right? And so I was just sort of like, okay, well, maybe I just haven't met the right guy yet where these things are compatible, aside from a couple of people who stand out who I had a more comprehensive connection with, like for men, but still nothing ever really came of it. And so my other than the two high school boyfriends, all of my significant relationships have been with women. And so I've often been curious how, certainly even sexually, like how it would have been different, what differences would have been present other than body parts, but just how sex would have been experienced over longevity,
Yeah.
right? And because in my experience professionally, whether it's two women, two men, a man and a woman, different gender identities, but in a two-person monogamous relationship, regardless of the gender identity of the people in the relationship, long-term relationships, no matter what parts anyone have, there can be more similarities and differences in terms of how people can experience long-term commitment and the sex that comes with that. Obviously, we in our young relationship are
How,
committed.
how young is our
How
relationship?
young are we? Well, I think we're officially about 2 years young. Yes, 2 years young. And 2 years of long distance relationshiping. And so I would say our getting to know each other and spending time in person has really been spread out and like taken our time. However, I think in 2 years, even in the first few months, I think that the number of hours we logged on the phone and on Zoom and the ways in which we shared things about ourselves with each other, the depth to which we shared, the honesty and upfrontness, I mean, far exceeded experiences I've had. And that has been, the biggest difference for me in relationshiping with women than with men is my emotional self coming out and talking and the processing. And again, like I know these things happen for women who are in relationships with men, but not in the same way necessarily. And my sister, who is like, I mean, I kind of just want to call her a queen straight person. She's definitely the exclusive on the Kinsey scale of hetero, often having wished she wasn't because she too likes to talk about things and has feelings and has rarely ever dated a guy who can really truly express their feelings the way she can and what she wants.
Yeah.
But there was a time during in my recent years where I thought about start trying to date men, just experiment and see what that was about. And she kept reminding me that it wouldn't go well. She's like, I don't think so. It's gonna be really hard for you. You're not gonna, you I don't know, the guys are gonna like you. Like, they might like you physically, but they're not gonna be able to talk on your level. And you need way too much like emotional connection. And I really wonder because I really have to believe because of really, I would say professionally, and because just the world and diversity of human beings. Of course, everyone has the capacity for emotional connection, but we're just socialized differently and we have different models of what that can look like. And different people in our lives who maybe push and challenge us to open up different parts of ourselves. And maybe women just get to have that earlier on for a longer time. But it's definitely my jam.
Hard, hard. I think even in this latter part of what you're talking about, I've had, some basic connections with men who could eventually get to some level of, this depth that I so cherish in life and in our relationship. However, I'd also say that there's like a quality to it, right? There's like a palpable quality of like I said, this ease and this like sameness where, we can be talking about any and everything and don't have to do okay, how were you conditioned as a man? How do I break through? And what's the analogy I need to use to get you to understand this piece? And even if I do get there, are you going to want to be with it? Like, it's just, there's so much to consider. And
I'm laughing a little bit because as you're saying, like, what analogy do I need to come up with to kind of paint this picture? I'm thinking of my sister who has made at least two PowerPoint presentations for her boyfriend to explain something emotional to him. And it's incredible because he understood it from that format. Just really smart and funny, and also other adjectives that are less sunny because it takes a lot of creativity. For her, it has taken a lot of creativity to access that part of him.
yeah, definitely. I think as we, wrap this up in a bit, I will say I'm thinking about those women that might be our age, might be older, might be younger, and they might not be out. They might have questions. What would be something that you would say to someone that might be in that boat?
Yeah. First, I would acknowledge that there are certainly a diverse set of reasons that people are not out, have chose, certainly at least if for those who know that they that their sexuality is something other than how they've been living or what it looks like, maybe the relationships they've had, they really would rather be in different relationships with different kinds of people. But I think that when I think about adults, young people, but also certainly older adults who are not out yet, I think about safety and I
Mm,
think about community. And I think the first thing that comes to my mind often is a wondering of, what role has safety played in this person not coming out and wanting to, I suppose, recommend that people find resources around wherever they might live because I mean, I'm grateful to live, I've grown up in New York City and I live a little bit outside of New York City, but I will never leave a blue state where I'm close to a city where there's a lot of different types of people and all sorts of every identity that's around, because it makes it a lot easier to just be who I am and not worry about my safety for the most part. Also, I'm a white person who presents as straight, and so that comes with its own privilege of safety in ways that not everyone gets to experience. But safety comes to mind first. And so it would be around, you know, finding local LGBT resources and centers or groups or meetups or something. But that's for people who want to come out. Not everyone wants to come out. Sometimes it's because of religion.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I realized in your question is that instead of what I would say to people, where my brain has gone is thinking about why those folks are not out, and do they want to be out? And that would be a certain set of things I would say if folks are wanting to come out and not sure how, or worried about things like safety, or I don't have a community, I don't know what to do or where to go, or I can't tell my family, or I'm a woman, I'm married to a man and I don't want to leave my family, but this is not me, right? And then there's people who maybe either just don't know, or more so they know and they don't want to come out. They don't want to change their life. They don't want to end their relationship. They don't want to lose their job. There's some feared or actual negative consequence. So
Hmm.
I recognize that I don't have a blanket thing to say about
Yeah.
it but what I would say is that, just the sooner anyone can feel empowered to choose to live in their truth, the more of a quality of life you get to have. And
Yeah.
to trust that there will be people who love you and support you no matter what. And often it's people you even know who can surprise you.
Mhm.
And if you don't have anyone you know who would support you and you would be alone, there's a world of community under the rainbow umbrella who are just waiting to welcome you into safe and welcomed arms.
Yeah. It's great. Great answer, love. Yeah, I will speak to the non-man that, or anyone that knows that they want to come out and they're just trying to, you know, figure out like what are the, not necessarily the steps, but I guess I'll just list some things that were really supportive for me. Definitely being honest, just being honest with myself and giving myself the opportunity to connect and to, like I said, I had tried it out earlier. And if I had just let those experiences be the experiences, then I never would have gone forward. But actually getting on a dating app and like meeting, my first girlfriend and seeing the ease that was there and the attraction that was there and how this whole part of me, like what I didn't say is that my sex life with my ex-husband and was so challenging. It was so challenging. I was so unfulfilled that I just thought that sex was overrated. And so, like, me actually giving myself the opportunity to experience something different and really loving those experiences, it has radically changed my life. And I'm forever grateful for it. And so, yeah, give yourself the opportunity, do it for your soul.
Mm. Preach.
Yeah, love. Well, this has been extraordinary. Did you have fun?
I did have fun, and this latter part of the conversation, um, I think that if this were to have been a more structured conversation around coming out, I
Hmm.
think that there would be a lot of things that could be really worthwhile to talk about, and
Yeah,
even frame it as here are some steps to consider.
yeah,
And,
we should do that. Let's do it.
just there's a lot to say about coming out and choosing not to, choosing to, the when, the how, the where, to whom,
Yeah,
things is too important to gloss over. So I would love to
agreed.
give it some more time.
Yeah, and we'll come back to the conversation. And if you are new to our conversation, and we've recorded that coming out video. The video will be linked in the description, so you will be able to see that and reference that. All right, darling, this has been excellent. I'm so glad you said yes to joining this journey together and our wonderful podcast. And I look forward to recording and sharing more with you and the rest of the world, whoever watches this.
Excellent. I am next online at the amusement park.
Love it.
I'm ready for
Season
the ride.
passes.
Let's do
Season
it.
passes. Love it.
Season passes, yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the Love Beyond Limits podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation, please feel free to subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes.
Be sure to follow us and join us next time.
I might you. And I have to pay.
Okay, we gotta do it. We gotta do it. Be sure to follow us and join us next time as we continue to break boundaries and celebrate love in all its forms.